Welcome back to Pine Hollow Quilts and our sampler sew-along. I read your comments from the previous 2 months, and I appreciate your kind words and the enthusiasm that you have for the sew-along. So today we are going to sew block number 3. This block is known by several names: Mother's Choice, Dove in the Window, Fringed Square, and Laurel Wreath. The fabrics that you're going to need are a fabric A and a fabric B and a background. Your colors can be from the same color family, say a red and a pink, or a bright pink and a lighter pink, or they can be totally different colors like yellow and blue. Your choice. What I have chosen for today is a blue and a blue-green, so I'm kind of going to stay within the same color realm. My background is this one. It kind of looks like a batik. It's got red in it, some pinks, yellows, greens, blues. There's a little bit of purple in it. So this is going to be my background to tie in with my blue and my green. You want to make sure that you have enough contrast between your fabric A, your fabric B, and your background so that when the design comes out, it looks nice. Here's one that I have done previously. I'm not real happy with my color choices on this. I love all 3 colors separately, but it just gets too muddled up in here. It's just too muddy. And I'm not really pleased with the way this one turned out color-wise. So that's why I picked all new colors to try this again. So what you need to do is pick your colors out, and we're going to get those cut out. And what you need to cut out, you need to decide, first of all, what's going to be your fabric A and your fabric B. And for me, I'm going to use my blue as my fabric A. And what you need to cut are 3 5 3/4 inch squares and 1 4.5 inch square out of your fabric A. Fabric B, you're going to need to cut 3 5 3/4 inch squares out of your fabric B. Your background fabric, and you can even do background fabric as a black if you wanted to look like it's just floating there. That would be really cool. But anyway, your background fabric, you need 4 5 3/4 inch squares and 4 2.5 inch squares. All right, so now go gather your fabrics, cut your sizes, and I'll meet you back at the sewing machine so we can get started. Okay, so here we are with our fabrics all cut. We have fabric A. This is my 4.5 inch square. My fabric A 5 3/4 inch squares. My fabric B 5 3/4 inch squares, 3 of them. And my background fabric 5 3/4 inch squares. And my 2.5 inch squares, 4 of those. Okay, so up until this point, we have done half square triangles 1 at a time. Today, we are going to learn how to do them 8 at a time. Not difficult, it just means you have to pay attention a little bit. So the first thing we're going to do is get everything out of here that we don't need. Okay, we don't need this 4.5 inch square, and we don't need the 2.5 inch square, so we're going to set those aside for later. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to pair these up. We are going to pair up a fabric A and a fabric B, right sides together. Set those aside. Then we're going to pair up a fabric A, and a background square, right sides together. And we're going to do another one. Fabric A and our background fabric. If I can get them separated. Right sides together. I'm going to offset these a little bit so we know. And then we're going to take our fabric B and our last 2 squares of background fabric, pair them up, right sides together. And one more set, fabric B and backgrounds, right sides together. Okay, now we're going to set everything aside, and first thing we're going to work with is a fabric A and a background square. Okay, so the first thing to do this is make sure they're perfectly lined up. Bring your ruler in. I am currently using a 6 by 14 inch ruler, and we're going to draw diagonals from corner to corner on this fabric A background pair. And you can either do it on your background fabric or you can do it on your fabric A. It doesn't matter, wherever you can see the lines. Then we're going to turn the ruler and we're going to draw the diagonal on the other side. So we're making an X. Okay, and this is going to be the same for all of your other sets that you're going to do, all the other pairs that we paired up. Okay, but we're just going to work with one set. And what you need to do right now at the sewing machine is you're going to come in and you're going to sew 1/4 inch to the left and 1/4 inch to the right on this diagonal and this diagonal. So you're going to have your drawn line, a stitch line on one side, stitch line on the other side, a diagonal, a stitch line on one side, a stitch line on the other side. Go ahead and stitch that out. And if you're feeling confident that you know what you're doing, go ahead and mark the rest of them with your diagonals and do your stitching on all of them. So that'll give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets. So go ahead, do your marking, do your stitching, and then come back and I'm going to show you how these big squares will turn into half square triangles. Okay, so here we are. I have my lines drawn, as I showed you. I have the first two stitched on either side of this drawn line. I'm going to go to the sewing machine right here and I'm going to sew the other two. As you can see, I've already done these 4 sets, so I'm all ready to go with those, but I wanted to show you what the last little process was there while I'm doing these last 2 lines. They're going to go really quick. All right, one down. Yeah, I know it's not on camera, but it's easier than moving the camera. Okay, last 2 done. Now you can see I have all 4 of them done. 2 are darker than others because I ran out of thread, so I had to change thread. So now we are going to turn this into 8 half square triangles. And the way we do this is, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut across, and you're going to line it up with your edges. You're going to take your ruler and you're going to line it up with your edges, and you're going to go straight through the center. You're going to go through the center cut line and the center stitch lines. You're going to cut straight through there. So we're going to line it up, get everything nice and square. Now, square here and square here. Don't necessarily look out here. That's not as important as the 2 edges here and going through straight through the center. This is a little awkward because I'm cutting weird with the camera. Okay, so I made that cut. Lift your ruler without moving your fabric and turn it to the other sides. Again, going straight through where you stitched and through that center X. Again, it's important that you get your edges lined up here. I like to line up on the dots. The straight lines are harder to see. So get that lined up. Get your X lined up in the center. And we're going to make another slice straight through. Okay, we have just cut 4 squares. All right, but we need half square triangles. So the next step we're going to do, remember those drawn diagonals? Without moving any of the fabric, cut your drawn diagonals, corner to corner. Again, you should be going through that X in the center. Nothing should have shifted. If it did, shift it back slightly. If anything gets cut that you don't want to get cut just slightly, there's seam allowances anyway. All right, there's one set. So yeah, if your drawn lines are off just a smidge, all you're cutting are seam allowances. Okay, so try and stay on there, but don't sweat it. All right, now you can pull them apart. And guess what? We have 8 half square triangles. What you need to do now is cut the rest of them. Now that you have them all sewn, cut the rest of them, and then we're going to take them and press them. And when you press them, I'll tell you this now, when you press them all away from the background fabric. So that's going to go towards your fabric A or your fabric B. And when you get to the one that was your fabric A and fabric B, which is this one, there's my B fabric and my A fabric, you're going to press them towards the B fabric. Okay? No, away from. You're going to press them the same way as you press these. Here it's going towards B, so these ones will also go towards B, away from. Okay, I've totally messed this up, but that's okay. Press them the same direction. You press them towards B, towards A every single time, whether it has background or whether it's got B on it. Press them towards the A. In my case, it's going to be blue. Now that I've thoroughly confused you. Yes, finish cutting your half square triangles. Press them all towards A, whether it's background or whether it's A and B. Press them all towards A. All right, go ahead, resume cutting. I will stay on camera here for a minute and show you again, and keep cutting with me. Remember, don't do the diagonals first, do the straight edges first. So line it up on your ruler, cut through edge to edge. Hopefully it didn't move. If it did, just squish it back together. Line it up. I hope the camera didn't move. If it did, I'm sorry. I'm leaning into it a little. Cut the other edges. Now cut your diagonals. Your drawn diagonals, not your stitch diagonals. That would be bad if you cut your stitch diagonals, because then you would have no stitching. All right. Okay, there we go. I've got 2 done now. Oh, almost done. Got a little hanger on there. So yes, these will get stitched, pressed towards B, and this one's going to get pressed A. Excuse me, I don't know why I keep saying that. Towards A, towards A. All right, go ahead and keep cutting, pressing, and then come on back, and we're going to start to assemble this block. Okay, so here we have our neatly pressed and trimmed half square triangles. The blue background is pressed towards the blue. You can see it right here. It's pressed towards the blue. Fabric A. Our fabric B, my green, it also is pressed towards the fabric B. And on the AB, it is pressed towards my A fabric. These should measure 2.5 inches at this point in time. It's very easy to make 8 at a time half square triangles for any size. What you need to do is take your finished size in the quilt, and these were going to be 2 inches in the quilt. You're going to double that measurement. 2 times 2 is 4. Then you're going to add 1 3/4 inches. So 4 plus 1 3/4 is 5 3/4. That's what we started out with, was our original 5 3/4 inches. So to make this, if we wanted to do 8 at a time at 3 inches finished in the quilt, double it to be 6, add 1 3/4 inches, so your cut squares will be 7 3/4. So all you have to do is double your finished size in the quilt and add 1 3/4 inches. This is not my math. This is math that's out there in the Google realm. Anybody can find it. But I thought I would pass that along to you in case you wanted to make the block bigger, in case you want to try it for another project. It's much faster to make 8 at a time. So anyway, now we have these, and we're going to set some of these back out of the way so that we can work. And what we're going to need, we're going to do some half square triangles. We're going to take and we're going to do one background blue, or background A, background B. We're going to do an AB, and then we're going to bring in those 2.5 inch background squares that we had before. We're going to make a 4-patch, and here's how the 4-patch lays out. We're going to put our background down here. We're going to take a background fabric B, which is this one for me, and you're going to turn it so that the background is pointing down this way. Then we're going to take a background and fabric A, put it below here so that my A and my B are pointing towards each other. Then we're going to take an AB and we're going to turn it so that the B's and the A's are touching. There's your 4-patch. You're going to make 4 of those. So let's do another one. We'll start with fabric A. We're going to, background fabric. We're going to bring in our background fabric and B, put it next to it, B pointing in, fabric A and background, A pointing in, and then our AB matching up the colors with the points to the center. So there's 2 blocks. Let's do another one. Let's see, can I go up or can I go down? Let's go sideways. All right. There's that one, background. Fabric B in background. Fabric A in background, pointing together. And then our AB fabric, we're going to bring in so that the colors match. All right, there's 3 sets. We're going to do one more set. And I should be able to do it up here where you can see it. We're going to do fabric background fabric. Oh my goodness, my A's and B's today are just going all kinds of places. All right, B and background, pointing in, A and background, pointing in, and then A and B next to each other, My A's are next to each other, my B's are next to each other, pointing in. Okay, you're going to sew these 4 patches together, all 4 sets of them, and then we're going to come back and do another unit. Okay, so here we have our 4 patches sewn together correctly this time. Yes, even the best of us had to do a seam rip. I got one backwards. So we're going to put these over here. They're not pressed yet. They're just finger pressed. And the next part we're going to make flying geese units. Now this is an alternate way to make a flying goose unit. It's not the other way that uses a rectangle and 2 triangles. This is using the half square triangles. So we're going to need our background and A and our background and B. And we're going to need 2 of each for 1 goose unit. So 2 A backgrounds and 2 B backgrounds. And what we're going to do for the first flying goose is we're going to have our B's together. No, we're going to have our BA together. Got to read my directions here. Okay, so the B is going to be down this way and the A is going to be down this way. Your backgrounds are going to point out. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one that's going to be under it, you're going to keep your, and I have these backwards. This is A. Oh my goodness, I don't like A's and B's today. Okay, so we're going to keep the A's and B's on the same side. They're pointing in towards the center, the color points. Okay, and then we're going to take the B that's on this side and we're going to have the color point out. And A, we're going to have the color point out. Okay, so here is one flying goose where your goose is the colored fabric, and your second flying goose that's going to be attached to it, your background fabric is going to be in the center. So we're going to sew this together just like we did the 4 patch, just like this, but they're actually flying geese units. And we need to make 4 of those. So let's go ahead and actually put 4 of these together so we can see what they all look like. Let me move them around here so we can get them all on here. Because with me saying my A's and B's wrong today, we need to make sure we get this right. So we're going to start with the top one. Color points in. Color points in. Keep the same color on the same side. Color points out this way. Color points out that way. Yes? That's not right. This one's not right. See? There we go. Okay, I have no idea what I'm telling you with the colors pointing in or out, but this one is your colored goose and your background goose. That's why we're doing more than one of these. All right, let's try the next one and see if I can say the right things. Let's move these 4 patches out of the way. Okay, there's the blue, fabric A, pointing down, fabric B, pointing down. Get in there. Okay, next one. Fabric A, pointing out this way. Fabric B, pointing out this way. There we go, now it's right. 3rd time's a charm. Okay, let's get this 4th one on here. A and B. A and B. Woohoo! Got it right the last time too. Okay, stitch these together, making sure you're keeping your flying geese units the same. And then come right back out here and we're going to put our 4 patches that we've assembled up here. We're going to do our 4 patches and we're going to do our flying geese together. Okay, so here we go with our flying geese units. There's one, there's two, there's three, and there's four. Okay, so those all turned out really well. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to lay the block out. We have all of the pieces needed. We're going to lay it out and then we can start stitching it together. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need is we're going to need the original 4 patches that we made. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to turn it so the background square is in the top right, top left. It's over here, right? It's over here. Let me move that down just a smidge so you can see it. Okay, and then we are going to need a flying goose unit that we just made. We're going to put it right next to it. The next thing we're going to need is another flying goose, another 4-patch unit from the beginning. We're going to put it here, and this time we're rotating it a 1/4 of a turn so that our background square is on the upper right. Okay, the next row down, we're going to turn our geese so that the geese are pointing out. Okay, now here is where that 4.5-inch square of fabric A comes into play. If I can get mine, because I have 2 here. Okay, that's where that square goes right there. And then our other flying goose unit goes here, pointing out. Okay, final row. We're going to take the square, the complete background square, and it's going to go on the bottom left. All right, and then our final goose unit is going to go here, pointing down. And then our final 4-patch is going to come in here with the background square, bottom right. Wow, it looks like I have enough contrast on there. I like it. Okay, so now what you need to do is just sew this together in rows and then join your rows just like we do for every block, and then press it. And I think this is going to look really nice, and I hope yours do too. Let's get it stitched and get it shown and see what it looks like. And here we have the Mother's Choice block completed. I like this. I like the contrast in this, and I'm very happy with this one. The finished size, once we get our quilt going, is going to be 12 inches. This size right here is 12.5 inches. Now you're probably thinking, but why did we make all of those half square triangles? We have plenty extra. Well, you know, here is where the extra side note comes in, or the extra block, or the little extra that I always give you. So we're going to set this aside, and we're going to pull in, these happen to be my fabric B half square triangles, and I'm going to lay them out just like this. I always have to do a little twisting and turning to figure this out. And look what we just made. Sew those together and you have a pinwheel. In fact, I've already sewn the fabric A, my blue, together, and I've already sewn my fabric A and B together, my blues and greens. Now what you can do with this is save these and use them in another project. Save these and use them in this project. Or you could practice making your half square triangles and make more, and you could actually put these as a border around Mother's Choice if you're going to make more of them to make a full quilt. This would be a really cute idea. Make, let's pull these down so you can see them. What you could do is make probably 11 more blocks to do, have a total of 12. You could do 3 by 4. Put a thin sashing in here around all of your blocks, and then do a pieced border of your pinwheels from your same fabric, and then go ahead and quilt it and bind it. That would be a really cute project as an extension to learning how to do this and the 8 at a time half square triangles, so you can get them done a lot faster. Well, thank you for joining me here today. Be sure to subscribe below to get notified of our videos and when they post. Please leave comments or questions below. I always read them. I may not respond unless it's a direct question, but I always read them. And just to let you know, next month we are going to have a guest presenter. She has an awesome block lined up for you. I've already seen it. I've already stitched it out. Can't wait for you to get started. Next month we are going to be working on quarter square triangles. And that's something we haven't done yet. And we're going to be making some of all different sizes. So sign up below so you can be notified of next month's video also when we post it. And happy sewing!